There's a moment with certain cigars where you take the first pull, and you already know how the rest of it's going to feel. Sometimes it's tight, not impossible, just effort. Other times, it's so open it almost feels like you're just breathing through it normally. And most people immediately decide tight is bad, loose is good. But it's not that simple, because draw resistance doesn't just affect comfort. It changes how you smoke, which changes how the cigar burns, which changes how it tastes. And once you start noticing that, you realize draw isn't just preference, it's part of the experience. When we talk about draw resistance, we're really talking about airflow. A tighter draw means less air moves through the cigar with each pull. Looser draw means more air moves through it easily. That airflow directly affects combustion. More air equals more oxygen. More oxygen equals hotter burn. Less air equals cooler burn, but more effort from you. And here's something interesting. A tight draw doesn't automatically mean a poorly made cigar, and a loose draw doesn't automatically mean a well-made one. Sometimes it's construction, sometimes it's how it was cut, and sometimes it's just how that particular cigar was rolled. But mechanically, what matters most is this. Draw resistance changes temperature, and temperature changes flavor. Here's where things usually shift. If a cigar feels tight, most people instinctively pull harder. You're trying to get more smoke, but pulling harder forces more oxygen through the ember. Now it burns hotter. Now bitterness creeps in, and the natural response is to blame the cigar. But sometimes, it's not the cigar. It's the reaction to the resistance. On the other side, when a cigar is very loose, it feels effortless, almost too effortless. And what happens then? You tend to puff more frequently, without thinking about it, because it feels easy. And that also increases combustion temperature over time. So ironically, both extremes can lead to overheating, just in different ways. Now, personally, I prefer a slight resistance. Not tight, not plugged. Just enough that I feel like I'm actually smoking something. If it's too loose, it almost feels like I'm just breathing through rolled tobacco. A little resistance forces me to slow down, to draw deliberately, to be aware of each pull. But I know some people feel the opposite. Some people want it wide open. They don't want to fight it at all. So I'm curious, do you prefer a little resistance, or do you want it effortless? And has that changed over time? Now here's something that gets overlooked. Draw resistance isn't always fixed. Cutting matters more than people think. If you barely clip the cap, you restrict airflow. If you cut too deep, you can open it up dramatically. And a punch cut versus a straight cut will change resistance. Even how clean the cut is can make a difference. I used to think draw issues were almost entirely construction related, but over time, I realized how often it came down to how I cut it. A small adjustment can completely change how a cigar feels. And once you recognize that, you stop assuming the cigar is flawed before experimenting a little. Draw resistance changes your behavior, and your behavior changes the cigar. If it's tight, you pull harder or more often. If it's loose, you puff casually and frequently. Either way, cadence shifts, and cadence is one of the biggest factors in flavor development. A slower cadence keeps combustion cooler. Cool combustion preserves nuance. Hot combustion flattens it. So draw resistance isn't about comfort, it's about pace. And pace shapes the experience. The misconception that a cigar must feel completely open to be good. But a slightly snug draw can actually be beneficial. It forces rhythm, it prevents over-smoking, and it can help maintain a steadier burn. Of course, if it's plugged to the point of frustration, that's different. But slight resistance? That's not automatically a flaw. Sometimes, it's just personality. So the next time you light up and something feels off, don't just ask, is this cigar good? Ask, how is this draw influencing how I'm smoking this? Am I pulling harder than I should? Am I puffing too frequently? Am I overheating it without realizing? Because sometimes what feels like a bad cigar is just a mismatch between resistance and reaction. And once you start paying attention to that, you don't just evaluate cigars differently, you smoke them differently. Not tighter, not looser, just more intentionally. Did you know, in the 1800s, cigar factories in places like Havana and Tampa hired a lector, or reader, whose job it was to sit above the rollers and read newspapers, novels, and political writings out loud while they worked. The rollers didn't just learn technique, they absorbed literature. Some of the most famous cigar brands were named after characters from books those workers heard while rolling. Cigars weren't just crafted in silence, they were rolled into stories.